students, welcome to the introductory lecture on political theory. In the first lesson, we'll be trying to understand what is political theory. We'll understand what is politics and why do we need to study political theory. So let us begin our lesson. Let's start with understanding what is politics. Now, politics is defined as a set of activities that is associated with decision making or relations of power in groups or amongst individuals in order to make decisions on things like distribution of resources, status, or opportunities. So let me just repeat this definition again. Politics can be defined as a set of activities that are behind decision making or relations of power among groups or individuals regarding issues such as distribution of resources, status, or opportunities. Now I'm going to draw your attention to two parts of the statement. One is decision making, the other is relations of power. So if we try to understand decision making, it is important to understand that human beings have three important attributes that is behind this decision making process. A, we are all rational beings. Okay. B, we have the language to communicate and to express our beliefs. And lastly, we have the power to assess our actions. So we can communicate to the group or to another individual what we think is right or wrong, what we think is moral or immoral, or what we think is the right way of distribution of equality or not. So using these three attributes, we can say that human beings, use their faculty, that's a brain faculty, or their rationality to make decisions. And to communicate those decisions, we use our language. Once those decisions or the way things are, distributed or decided, we also have our understanding of assessing those actions or the result of those decisions. Okay? Now, going back to the next part of the definition that we had talked about is the relations of power. Whenever we say that, it is politics or it is all political, we basically mean that there is a power relation behind it. The power relation can be summarized as an influence of one over the other, one community over the other community. So basically, in any relation, there will always be the component of power. And whoever is a stronger in the group will decide how things are panned out or distributed, right? So this is what politics can be summed up as. Moving on, we can come to what is political theory then. Political theory is basically the study of political ideas and values such as justice, equality, democracy. Okay, so these are political ideas and values. Now, it is not only the study of political ideas and values, it is also the art of using to understand political institutions political institutions and practices using these ideas and values. So let me again repeat. Political theory is the study of political ideas and values such as justice, equality, democracy, and so on, and to use, describe, and assess political institutions and practices through these ideas and values. So that is political theory. In this part, it is not only understanding these concepts, but also the application, that is putting political theory into practice, right? So using these ideas, we see if the government is just or not. We see if the rights are providing freedom or not. We see if there is secularism in the nation or not. So basically, these ideas are not only understood, but also learned how to apply, and if the application is justified or not. And that is what political theory is all about. The third thing that we're going to talk about in today's lesson is what do we study in political theory. Now these ideas, political ideas such as democracy, justice, equality, freedom, they have not developed over time. Political philosophers through centuries have worked, researched, and have written about them. So we have political philosophers like Plato and Aristotle who have written books on democracy. We have philosophers like Karl Marx. In India, we have philosophers like Mahatma Gandhi, B.R. Ambedkar, we have Kautilya. So there are many political philosophers across the world who have talked, debated, and have written down their understanding of these political values. And every time a political philosopher debates, discusses, and puts down his or her thoughts in a written form, the political values or ideas become enriched, right? Because different nuances are added to it. So every time this happens, we are understanding the values much better, right? So this is what we study in political theory, in short. Now we move on to why do we need political theory in our life. Now there are three basic reasons why we need to study political theory. The first is, we all know that we have rights, right? We all know that we have right to vote, right to contest elections, freedom of speech and expression, but we should be aware of how to exercise them, right? So political theory teaches us the right way to exercise our rights. It's not only about being aware, it is also about how to exercise them correctly. And honestly, we are not really aware also of a lot of rights. We partially know our political rights, but when it comes to social or economic rights, many of us are unaware. So political theory also helps us of being aware of our all sorts of rights and to exercise them correctly. The second thing is that with time and changing circumstances, scholars have interpreted and reinterpreted political values and ideas. And this has added nuances to those values. And it is important for us to understand these nuances because this helps us in different contexts. Let me give an example here. For example, right to life earlier meant harm from abuse or some kind of assault from the other. But today, right to life also includes right to livelihood. Because now the interpretation is that right to life needs dignity of life, which can only be assured through getting some kind of a work and payment for that work. So the moment you get money for some job that you have done, you have dignity of life. And that is why right to life today includes right to livelihood. So going back to this, so we need to study political theory because of constant reinterpretation of political values and ideas. The third one. So now we have talked about reinterpretation. Now with changing time, the other thing that happens is new dimensions or threats emerge. Basically, we all know that we should have, the right to privacy. That is what is being debated nowadays, right? So, our WhatsApp messages should not be open to all. They are encrypted and we have the right to privacy through this. The same WhatsApp that allows most of us to network among our friends and families, activists to network so that, they can create a group, they can create a consensus, an opinion. The same network is used by terrorists and criminals also. And that is the reason why that certain regulations by the state is needed. The same dimension can also turn out to be a threat. And this is the reason why we need to constantly update ourselves about the emerging threats and how this impacts our understanding of political values. Okay? So these are some of the reasons why we need to study political theory. Now, let's talk about putting political theory into practice. Now, I'm going to give two examples here, right? So, one is a idea and one is a theory that has been given by J.S. Mill. So, out here we're going to talk about equality. If we talk about, the definition of equality, equality means treating everyone alike. That means giving everyone the same kind of resources or opportunities. In that case, what happens is we do not recognize the different needs of the other section of the people. For example, if you take a look at this picture, you see that we have given everyone the same kind of box. On one hand, the man is tall enough to take a look at the stadium, the game that is being played. On the other hand, giving it to a small little girl child, she is barely able to see. And the others, on the third angle, what we have is a little boy on a wheelchair who is unable to even get on the box. So treating everyone equally would mean that a person with a special need or a different need would not be able to access the opportunity or resources. That is why the concept of equality is now seen to be as concept of equity. The concept of equity says that different needs of people should be addressed and they should be given those opportunities. For example, this boy does not need this box. So why give him that? He is able to see or access those resources or opportunities pretty clearly. On the other hand, this girl should be given two boxes so that she is also able to participate in that game. And for the wheelchair, we can create a ramp so that the child on the wheelchair can also see it. So different solutions for different needs. This is what equity means. So for a concept like equality, a new interpretation or a new dimension of equity has been added. So earlier we used to think equality is again to treat everyone equally, but that has been challenged with the concept of equity. Now let's come to another example. Now this chap here is John Stuart Mill, J.S. Mill. He gave the principle of harm principle. We are going to talk about this principle in great length in the next chapter, which is on freedom. So harm principle basically states that a man or a woman is free to do whatever he or she wants to do unless his or her activity harms somebody else. The best example we can talk about is drinking and then driving. So as long as you're drinking at home safely, that is valid according to J.S. Mill, because you're not harming anybody else. Your activity is confined to you yourself only. But the moment you drink and drive, you're putting the lives of others on the road in harm. And that is a problem, right? The other example we can take about harm principle is smoking in public. As long as you're smoking in your own room, in your own house, again, it's a harm that you're doing to yourself, which is a self-regarding activity. So as long as that is there, J.S. Mill argues that one should have the liberty to do so. However, when you're smoking in the public and you're affecting the lives of the others around you, that is another regarding activity, that is, you're harming the lives of the other. This is where the state should intervene. Okay, so this is a philosophy that was given by J.S. Mill long time back, but even today we work on this principle, the principle of harm. We are going to talk about it in great detail in the next lesson, but just a brief understanding here. Now let's move on to studying political theory. Now, we'll talk about 4 basic reasons to study, and we have covered it just right now. The first is the need to study political theory is about the right way of exercising our rights, right? The second is because political theory is relevant to us. Now, we all face discrimination around us, whether based on caste, class, gender, or any other identity. But it is in our daily life that we see some form or the other of discrimination. And that is why it is very important for us to be aware of these political values, of equality, of social justice, of freedom. What is our rights? So this is why we cannot say that political theory is in the realm of discussion or in the realm of books. It is something that affects us in our day-to-day life. Okay? So it is relevant to us. Political theory helps us to think or argue rationally. Basically, when we as Indians, we love to argue, we love to debate, we love to discuss. Whenever there are elections around the corner, we are all sitting and talking about, what has been done and what could have been better and what needs to be improved, how social justice has not been achieved, how economic equality has not been achieved. So we always sit, discuss, debate. That is the nature of human beings. But political theory or understanding political theory is important so that we argue rationally. There's a rationale behind what our arguments are rather than, some kind of just influence of others. That is where it is important to understand political theory. And the last bit, it is not abstract. Political value or political ideas or political theory is not abstract theory. It is not a theory that is not in our life, or it is in the realm of only discussion or in the realm of only government policies. It is something that is, we deal with it in our day-to-day interaction, not discrimination. I'm talking about interaction. So we are going to go back to the first thing that I said, the definition of politics, wherein I talked about decision making and relations of power, right? In those relations of power, our values, our political values come into picture. So that is the reason why these values or ideas are not abstract. They are a part of our interactions. Okay? So this is the need to study political theory. Now let's quickly do a brief recap or a highlight. So in this lesson, we talked about what is politics. We talked about what is political theory. Then we talked about how to put political theory into practice. What do we study in political theory? Why do we need political theory? And finally, we took a look at what is the need to study political theory. At the end of the lesson, I'm just going to conclude with one thing, that we cannot, be away or separate from politics. It is all around us. It is how we behave in a society. So it is better to understand, be aware, and think rationally about what our words and actions say to the society. With this, I'm going to conclude my today's lesson. Thank you.